Everything you think you know about civilization, about progress, about the right way to live, the Yanomami would find deeply strange. What they have is something most of the modern world has spent centuries trying to find and failing. Community. The kind where the walls between you and your neighbors do not exist, literally. Where the person who hunts today feeds the whole village. Where the dead are not buried and forgotten, but carried inside the living. Where the forest is not a resource to be used, but a presence to be respected. The Yanomami have been living this way for thousands of years, in the heart of the Amazon. And what they have built, without any of the things we consider essential, is one of the most complete and sophisticated ways of being human ever developed. This is their story. The Yanomami are approximately 35,000 people living across the rainforest straddling the border between northern Brazil and southern Venezuela. One of the largest indigenous peoples in the Amazon, and one of the last to have maintained a way of life that is essentially continuous with how their ancestors lived centuries ago. Today I want to take you into their world, not as outsiders looking in at something strange, but as people trying to understand something genuinely extraordinary about how human beings can live. Everything begins with the Shabono. The Shabono is the communal house at the center of every Yanomami village. It is not a building the way most people think of buildings. Separate rooms, walls dividing families, private spaces sealed off from each other. The Shabono is a single enormous circular structure, open in the middle, with a large courtyard at its heart. Each family has its own section along the inner wall, a sleeping area, a cooking fire, a space for their hammocks. But there are no walls between families. The entire community lives inside one shared structure. You cook within sight of your neighbors. You sleep within earshot of the whole village. Your children run from one family's space to another without asking permission. Privacy, in the Yanomami sense, is not about physical separation. It is about something more subtle, about knowing when to speak and when to be quiet, when to look and when to look away. The courtyard in the center is where community life happens. Ceremonies, disputes, celebrations, the daily business of people who live truly together rather than just near each other. A Shabono can house anywhere from 30 to several hundred people. It is built from wood and palm leaves, entirely from materials the forest provides, and it is typically rebuilt every few years when the structure begins to age. The act of building a new Shabono is itself a community event. Everyone contributes. The men cut and carry the heavy timber. The women weave the palm thatch. Children run materials back and forth. An entire village rising together in the space of a few weeks. Not because anyone told them to, but because the Shabono belongs to all of them. The Yanomami are what anthropologists call semi-nomadic horticulturalists, which is a technical way of saying something much more poetic. They are people who grow food, hunt and gather, and move through the forest in seasonal rhythms that have been refined over countless generations. The forest gardens, called kanukos, are where the Yanomami grow most of their food. They clear small sections of forest, burn the vegetation to enrich the soil, and plant a remarkable variety of crops. Plantains and bananas are the staple. But a Yanomami garden also contains cassava, sweet potatoes, taro, sugarcane, cotton, and dozens of medicinal plants. The variety is deliberate. Different crops mature at different times, providing a continuous harvest rather than a single seasonal one. After a few years, a garden plot is abandoned and the forest reclaims it. A new plot is cleared somewhere else. This rotation, moving gardens through the forest, letting land rest and recover, is an ancient form of sustainable agriculture that works with the forest's natural cycles rather than against them. Western agriculture spent centuries trying to master what the Yanomami have been doing instinctively for generations. Hunting is the domain of men. The Yanomami hunt with bows and arrows, long, elegant bows made from a specific palm wood, with arrows tipped with different materials depending on the prey. Curare, a plant-based poison applied to arrow tips, is used for larger animals. The preparation of curare alone is a complex skill, requiring knowledge of specific plants and specific processes that take years to learn properly. The forest provides tapir, deer, peccary, armadillo, and a wide range of birds. Fishing supplements the diet, particularly during the dry season when rivers run lower and fish are easier to catch. And gathering, wild fruits, nuts, honey, insects, palm hearts, fills the gaps and adds variety to a diet that is, by most measures, extraordinarily nutritious. What is remarkable about Yanomami food culture is how little is wasted and how much is shared. When a hunter returns with a large kill, the meat is distributed through the entire community. Not because a rule says so, because that is simply what you do. The man who hunted well today might not hunt well tomorrow. The family that received today will give tomorrow. Generosity is not a virtue to be praised. It is the basic structure of how life works. To live in the Yanomami world is to live in two worlds simultaneously. The physical world, the forest, the river, the garden, the shabono, and the spirit world, which exists alongside it, interpenetrating it, shaping it in ways that are as real to the Yanomami as the ground beneath their feet. The spirit world is populated by beings called Hikura. They are not abstract forces or distant gods. They are specific beings, each one associated with a particular animal, plant, or element of the natural world. There is a Hikura of the jaguar, a Hikura of the river, a Hikura of particular trees. They move through the forest unseen by most people, but not by everyone. The Shapari, the shamans, are the people who can communicate with the Hikura. Becoming a Shapari is a long, difficult, and often painful process. The apprentice spends years fasting, learning, undergoing physical trials that strip away the ordinary self and make space for something else. They learn the songs that call the Hikura, the movements that invite them, the knowledge that keeps them from becoming dangerous. In ceremony, typically at night in the shabono, while the community watches and participates, the Shapari inhales yopo, a powerful plant-based powder, and enters an altered state in which he can travel to the spirit world, negotiate with the Hikura, bring back power for healing, or deal with threats to the community. The ceremony is loud, physical, and communal. Everyone is present. Everyone has a role, through song, through response, through witness. The Shapari does not just heal illness. They maintain the health of the forest. They communicate with the spirits of animals and plants. They manage the relationship between the human community and the non-human world that surrounds it. In Yanomami understanding, the forest is not a resource to be used. It is a community to be respected. And the Shapari is the diplomat between the human part of that community and everything else. The Yanomami relationship with death is one of the most profound and most misunderstood aspects of their culture. When someone dies, the Yanomami mourn loudly and completely. There is no quiet, contained grief. Death is wailed. It is expressed without restraint, in the full presence of the community. The body is cremated, returned to fire, to ash, to the forest from which everything comes. But the story does not end there. The bone fragments and ashes that remain are carefully collected and stored. Over time, they are ground into a fine powder. And at a ceremony called Rihu, a great feast held to honor the dead, that powder is mixed into a liquid and shared among the community. Family and close friends consume the remains of the person they have lost. To the Yanomami, this is not something strange. It is the most intimate act of love imaginable. You take the person inside you. You carry them with you. You do not leave them behind in the ground, separate from the living. You make them part of you, literally, physically, permanently. The Rihu ceremony itself is one of the great occasions of Yanomami social life. Villages travel long distances to attend. Food is prepared for days beforehand. There is feasting, dancing, the exchange of gifts, the strengthening of alliances between communities. The grief and the celebration are not separated. They are the same thing. To mourn someone properly is to celebrate what they were. To feast in their honor is to insist that their death does not end their story. Yanomami children do not go to school. They go to the forest. From the earliest age, children accompany their parents everywhere. Boys go with their fathers to the gardens, to the hunt, to the river. Girls go with their mothers to gather, to cook, to tend the crops. The knowledge that keeps a Yanomami community alive, the names of hundreds of plants, the habits of dozens of animals, the techniques of farming and hunting and fishing and healing, is not transmitted through books or classrooms. It is transmitted through doing alongside the people who already know. A Yanomami boy of 10 knows things about the forest that no university-trained biologist could tell him. He knows which tree produces the best wood for arrow shafts. He knows how to read animal tracks in the mud. He knows the bird calls that tell you which direction the wind is coming from. He knows which plants produce the fibers used to make rope. He knows all of this not because he studied it, but because it is the air he has breathed since he was born. This kind of knowledge, what scientists call traditional ecological knowledge, is increasingly recognized as one of the most sophisticated and complete understandings of forest ecosystems that exists anywhere in the world. Western science, with all its instruments and databases and research programs, is still in the early stages of documenting what the Yanomami and peoples like them have known for generations. It is impossible to talk about the Yanomami without talking about the Amazon, because they are not separate from it. They are part of it. The Amazon rainforest is the largest tropical forest on Earth. It covers roughly 5.5 million square kilometers. It contains approximately 10% of all the species on the planet. It produces 20% of the world's freshwater. Its trees and soils store vast amounts of carbon. Scientists describe it as the lungs of the Earth. Though the Yanomami, if they heard that phrase, would probably say it understates things. The forest is not just a lung. It is a living presence. It is everything. The Yanomami have been living in and with this forest for so long that their presence has shaped it. The gardens they cultivated and abandoned over centuries have left behind patches of unusually diverse vegetation. What scientists call anthropogenic forests, forests shaped by human hands. The animals that the Yanomami did not overhunt have maintained their populations in ways that keep the ecosystem balanced. The plants they tended and spread have grown in patterns that reflect centuries of human relationship. The Amazon is not a wilderness untouched by human beings. It is a landscape that has been lived in, cared for, and shaped by indigenous peoples for thousands of years. The Yanomami are not visitors to this ecosystem. They are part of its structure. There is a moment that people who have spent time with the Yanomami sometimes describe. You are sitting in the shabono at night. The fire is low. Around you, families are in their hammocks. Someone is singing softly. One of the songs the Shapri used to call the Hikura, just hummed quietly to themselves. A child has fallen asleep across their mother's lap. Outside, the forest is completely dark and completely alive. You can hear it breathing. And in that moment, something shifts. The things that seem important in the world you came from, the schedules, the screens, the noise, fall away. And what remains is something older and quieter and more complete. A sense that this community, this forest, this fire, this darkness full of sound, is what human life was always meant to feel like. The Yanomami have been living that feeling for thousands of years. Not as an escape from something, as the thing itself. They are not a people living in the past. They are a people who found something true about how to live, and have been practicing it, refining it, passing it on, for longer than most civilizations have existed. The forest is their home. The spirits are their neighbors. The dead are carried inside the living. And the children are already learning everything they will need to know, out there, between the trees, in the green light of the Amazon.